Alright, let's dive into this because it's not just another game recap. It's a story about resilience, controversy, and what happens when a player decides to remind everyone why they're a Brownlow medalist. So, here's the deal. Matt Rowell just single-handedly ended the Suns' 10-game losing streak, and in doing so, he might have crushed the Giants' wildcard dreams. But what makes this really interesting is how it all went down. Personally, I think this game is a perfect example of why AFL is more than just stats. It's about moments, decisions, and, sometimes, sheer chaos. First off, let's talk about Rowell. The guy had 40 disposals, 17 clearances, and 16 tackles. That's not just a good game, that's a statement. What many people don't realize is that Rowell's been battling injuries this season, and his form hasn't been anywhere near his Brownlow winning self. So, for him to come out in these miserable, wet conditions and dominate like this, it's a massive middle finger to anyone who's been writing him off. If you take a step back and think about it, this performance isn't just about the Suns winning, it's about Rowell proving he's still a force to be reckoned with. Now, let's talk about that Humphrey goal. Honestly, it's the kind of thing that'll have fans debating for weeks. Humphrey's sliding across the goal line, his heel clips the ball, and the umpire pays it. The Giants are fuming, but the review stands. Here's my take. It's a weird call, no doubt, but it's also the kind of moment that reminds you how unpredictable this sport can be. What this really suggests is that sometimes luck, or lack thereof, can swing an entire game. And for the Giants, who were already dealing with injuries to Lovert and Bedford, it felt like the universe was just piling on. Speaking of injuries, let's not gloss over how much that impacted the Giants. Losing 2 key players in the first half? That's a huge blow. From my perspective, it's not just about the players themselves. It's about the momentum shift. The Suns were already leading at the first change, and those injuries probably gave them even more confidence. One thing that immediately stands out is how Gold Coast capitalized on those setbacks. They didn't just win, they controlled the game when it mattered most. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. The Giants didn't roll over. They fought back in the third quarter, doubling their score with 4 goals. For a second, it looked like they might pull off a comeback. What makes this really interesting is that, even in defeat, the Giants showed grit. Josaia Delana, for example, had a breakout game with 20 disposals and 2 goal assists. Personally, I think he's a player to watch. He's got the kind of energy that could turn things around for the Giants next season. Now, let's zoom out for a second. This game wasn't just about the Suns breaking a losing streak or the Giants' wildcard chances taking a hit. It's about the bigger picture. AFL is a brutal sport, and games like this remind you why. It's not just about who wins or loses, it's about the stories that unfold along the way. Rowell's comeback, Humphrey's controversial goal, the Giants' injuries, all of it adds up to a narrative that's way more compelling than the final score. So, what's the takeaway here? In my opinion, it's this. AFL is a sport where one player, one moment, or one decision can change everything. Rowell's performance wasn't just a win for the Suns, it was a reminder of why he's one of the best in the game. And for the Giants? Well, it's a tough pill to swallow, but it's also a lesson in resilience. As we head into the final rounds, this game is going to be a talking point, not just for the results, but for the way it unfolded. What this really suggests is that in AFL, nothing is ever as straightforward as it seems. And that, my friends, is why we keep coming back for more.